So Jody says to me, a little while ago, you know what, I want you to come this year and share your story and share, how you made it. And this is about opening doors, Susan. And I want you to tell them what it takes in the face of adversity and to come out really kind of pulled together on the other side. So I told her I would tell some of my deep, dark secrets, but I'm not going to tell them all to you today. And what I thought about when I was putting this together was about, as a young child, I had this knowingness when I came into the world that I mattered, that I belonged here, and that I had this worth. And I don't know how it happened. I just kind of came into it. And at a very young age, I thought about the glass is half empty, half full a lot, right? We hear that expression. And around 9, 10 years old, I heard the concept of abundance versus scarcity. And I had this profound experience of thinking about everything in that way. When we thought about things of abundance and in abundance, how that manifested in our lives, and then when we thought about things in a scarcity mentality and how that manifested in our lives. And so recently, the last 10 years, I've studied out at the Chopra Center with Drs. Deepak Chopra and Dr. David Simon. And I don't know if you guys know Deepak Chopra, but he talks like this, and he's very brilliant, if any of you know him, right? Really, another cool dude. I just spent a couple of weeks out there with him. And what their work is about manifesting consciousness. And to do that, there are only two things in the world. One of them is love, and one of them is fear. That's it. Love and fear. All of our emotions, everything that we feel, all of these cognitive things that happen, you can put them into those two boxes. You are either in love or you are in fear. And so this concept came to me when I was thinking about how I came upon equity and access in my life. So I had those moments, and I had those moments of, you know what, I'm not good enough, and I can't make it through this. But that didn't happen to me until I was late into my 30s. And so this story starts with a quote that the late, great Senator Kennedy used to say a lot, which is, to those who much is given, much is expected back. And I believe myself to be one of those people that had a lot given to me in my life. And so I'm here today because this is part of my giving back. And so as Jody shared with you, I was a single parent, but I started Little Sprouts when I was 17. And this is my house. Ashley, did you change that or did I touch it? All right, kid, thanks. I thought, I didn't even touch the thing. What did I do? So this house has great significance because I started Little Sprouts when I was 17. And at 17, right, who knew what they were doing? But I told you again, I came into this planet kind of thinking that I could do anything. And I started with 6 children. I was making maybe $20,000 a year. And I was in an apartment, then I moved into my parents' house. And when I was 19 years old, or really 18, I decided, I'm going to buy a house. So I went to Lawrence Community Savings Bank in Lawrence, and the president at that time was Mr. Jim. And I said to Mr. Jim, I'm going to buy a house. He said, okay, Susan, you go ahead and do that. So I went out and I found this house or shack or whatever you want to call it right there. And I said to Mr. Jim, I'm going to buy this. And he said, okay, Susan, I just did an appraisal on it. And in fact, the amount of mortgage that you need and the value of the house doesn't match. I said to him, all right, what do I do? And he said to me, so you have to bring up the value of the house. You have to change the windows or change the rugs or paint the house. And I said, all right, Mr. Jim, thanks. I went home on Friday, and I got my sister Melissa, my father, my boyfriend at the time, Joey, and his friend Tom, and we went, and I knocked on the door of that house, and I said, Mrs. Potvin, we're going to paint your house this weekend. And we did. So Monday morning, I went back to the Lawrence Community Savings Bank. I sat on the curb, and Mr. Jim came to work, and I said, Mr. Jim, I painted the house. And he looked at me, he goes, you did what? I said, I painted the house. And my father, to this day, insists that this man gave me $55,000 to a 19-year-old with no cosigner because he was in shock that I actually did what he said he was going to do. And so then I had to pay the mortgage. And the significance of the SpaghettiOs is that I was so broke for 6 months, all I could afford to eat was SpaghettiOs. And I have this vivid memory of eating SpaghettiOs that were 5 for $1, no meatballs, because I couldn't afford it. And I said to myself, Susan, someday you will get SpaghettiOs with meatballs. And at our 25th anniversary 5 years ago, my team put together a sculpture of SpaghettiOs and meatballs in 25 cans, and that was my knowingness that I had made it, because I could now have meatballs. And so I worked at Little Sprouts, and I opened up a school here with my friend Donna. And Donna's on the next slide. And Donna and I, do you want me to change that? There we are. There's my friend Donna. Okay. So Donna and I worked together 5 or 6 years at Little Sprouts, running and operating Little Sprouts. Donna and I met back in high school at Methuen High, and Donna came from the public schools and was very street smart, and I came from the Catholic schools, and I was not so street smart. So we have been best friends for a very long time. And when we were in algebra class together, I used to do Donna's homework for her. And come to find out, many years later, the reason why Donna and I were such good friends was because Donna couldn't do algebra and I could. I didn't know that then. So move fast forward, and Donna and I now are, seniors in high school together. We're going to get our licenses, and we're working together at the Arlington Trust Bank back down in Lawrence. So we go to driver's ed school, and she goes out and does her on the roads, and I go out and do mine. And I decide, I don't really want to drive. And so this nice old man, Sam, took me out to do my on the roads. And I said, you know what, Sam, I don't really want to drive. Let's just drive around Methuen and Lawrence, and I'm not going to drive, and we'll talk. And so Sam was 55 years old. He said, fine, Susan. So I go to get my license, and Donna goes to get her license. And Donna could drive a Mack truck and back it up into, anything sideways, backwards, and sideways, because she was such an amazing driver. I, on the other hand, as Sam told me, he said to me, Susan, you're not going to get your license. And I said, why? He said, you don't know how to drive. And I said to him, but Sam, what are we going to do? He said to me, I know the licensing agent that's going to do this. He said to me, when you take your test, smile at him and kiss him on the cheek, and he'll give you your license. So I did, and I got it, okay? So I go home, and I take my father's Buick station wagon. I drive it through the garage door, no lie, and I drive to work at the Arlington Trust Bank. And I'm sitting in the parking lot sobbing my heart out. And my friend Donna comes over after she parks her really big car and says, Susan, what's the matter? And I say to her, Donna, I can't park the car. I don't know how to park. I can't drive. And Donna met me in that parking lot every day for 9 months and parked my car for me. And out of that came this great relationship that we have. And we worked together for many years. Move it fast forward, okay? She leaves and starts and does her own family daycare home. I continue growing the business, and we get married, both of us. We marry 2 men that are friends of each other. That's another story. And we have our children, right? I have my 2 sons, Nicholas and Anthony. I was given my 3rd son when he was 11. He's here today, Marvin. And Donna had her 2 beautiful girls, Danielle and Shanae. Danielle is here as well. And we grew our families together, and we had a great time. And then we got divorced together. And then we fell in love together with these great men. She fell in love with this really cool guy named Mike, and I fell in love with this really amazing man named Bill. And Bill was the first man that kind of self-actualized me, right? He taught me, like, wow, Susan, he was a real estate developer. You can do anything. You have such an amazing program at Little Sprouts. And he convinced me to go to Northern Essex Community College and to Lower Cross Point and actually open Little Sprouts 2 and 3. So at this time that this is all going on, I am now going through a divorce. Donna's going through a divorce, not an easy divorce either. And we're in love, and we're planning the rest of our lives together. So I go to meet Bill for breakfast one day, and I walk into the house, and I find him dead. And he had died of a heart attack. And here I was, 29 years old, and this man was gone from my life. And who do I call? My friend Donna. And my friend Donna comes over and helps me get through this unbelievably hard time in my life. My therapist called it a breakthrough. I called it a breakdown. And I was on antidepressants for many years, 2 years exactly. And during those 2 years, my friend Donna called me every single morning. Susan, this is your I love you call. Get out of bed. Susan, this is your I love you call. What are you going to do today? Susan, this is your I love you call. I'm coming over. 2 years. She did that for me. And I think today as I stand here, why I'm here is because of those I love you calls. And when Jody asked me to think about opening doors and how did I get through this, I recognized that it was in that moment of those people asking me and Donna calling me for those I love you calls that got me through. There are moments in life that you wonder why things happened. And a little more than a year ago, my friend Donna passed away as well. And so as I continue to grow as a human being, the greatest gift that she could have ever left me, besides her 2 daughters, Shanae and Danielle, and her son-in-law, John, she left me with this imprint on my heart of these I love you calls, that it matters, this connection and this moment that we take to make sure that we are acknowledging people in their worth and their value. And we're here today because of those things, because of love, and because of fear as well. And when Jody was talking to you about Compass and the young women and men that are taking the Compass program, they have these struggles. And so in life, actually you can click the next button, we have fear, right? And then there's sometimes click the next one. We have fear, right? Which is, click it again, is this screaming fear, right? Where you are like, I cannot do this. There is no way I can make it through, which is what I thought when my friend Bill died. And Donna taught me something different. And there is fear, my friends, and there is love. And I'm going to bring you to the next time. So this is the picture of my fear, okay? And I share this with you because this is our great friend, Governor Patrick. And we call him that in education because he has done so much. When he was brought into our great state to help us out, someone said to me, you need to go talk to him. He needs to know what's going on in early education. And I was like, I cannot go talk to that man. I'm scared to death of him. If you've ever heard him speak, he is one of the best speakers in the entire nation, without a doubt, next to our president. And I heard him speak, and I'm like, no way, damn, I am not going to speak to that man, okay? I did that for about a year. And after a year, I went in and I talked to our great Governor Patrick, and I told him what was going on in early education. That man has been the greatest champion in our state, if not our nation, for the needs of our children. What he did was he changed the governance in the state of Massachusetts to ensure that our children were not only being represented in HHS, but actually he moved all that population under the Department of Education. That is a game-changing decision that he made, not only in the state of Massachusetts, but for our country, because it is a model. And I was so afraid to go talk to him, and he listened so well. And so what I realized is that it's fear or it's love. And fear constricts you and love expands. And so when I think about, do I go talk to Governor Patrick, it's about expansion. And I look at that picture and I'm like, Susan, what were you afraid of? You could have kicked his butt. You're like 10 times bigger than him, right? I mean, really. Look at that. His assistant asked me if I'd be his bodyguard. I said, yeah, sure, okay. And he, you know, those experiences of pushing myself is what got us there. We're here today to celebrate this great Compass program and the graduating students. And we have a young girl that you'll hear from soon. Her name is Tatiana. That's Tatiana. Those are her really cool kids, Jamari and Peter. And Tatiana had this great love and expansion when she came into the program. And all of a sudden, she was gone. That fear set in. We couldn't find her, right? We couldn't find Tatiana. Where's Tatiana? No one knew. We called her. We knocked on her door. We had people from Sprouts there, Compass. We made I love you calls. Right, Tatiana? And Tatiana came back. And you're going to hear her story today because she came back, and she didn't even think that she deserved to be at graduation, so she didn't come. So you didn't see Tatiana's picture in there at graduation because she didn't remember that we all deserve and have a birthright of belonging and universal belief and strength. And so Tatiana is back today because of the I love you calls that we all did at Little Sprouts and at Compass to make sure that she remembered that. There is a great power in connection, and there is a great ability of my life's work that I call, it's about connecting what's in your head with what's in your heart and making sure it comes out of your mouth, right? Because what happens is a lot of times what's in our head comes out and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. Then what's in your heart comes out and you're sitting in your boss's office and you're sobbing your heart out. You're like, I can't believe I did that, okay? So our work as human beings, and in my world, is about taking the head and the heart and making sure that it is expressed out of the mouth through love and language. Back to that, to those who much is given, much is expected back. This year for Little Sprouts, and click the next one, Ash, we won really 3 cool awards. We won the BBJ Pacesetters Awards for Fastest Growing Company 3 years in a row, Little Sprouts did. We were on the top 100 women-led business list in Boston. And we also won this award for the Greater Boston Small Business of the Year Chamber of Commerce. And I look at that headline, and it is probably one of the proudest moments of my life. Because really and truly, how a single mother changed early education in Massachusetts, how I grew a company from $15,000 a year to $18 million a year, only happened because of my friend Donna and those I love you calls. And what I suggest, and I invite all of us to do here today, is to take the time to reach out and make those I love you calls to the people that are important, that we know need the support and the help, and to acknowledge when others are doing it like we're doing today at Compass. I leave you with a great quote that I love from Nelson Mandela. There can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children. Namaste, my friends.